big victory. Congratulations on the victory. You got a lot off your chest afterwards. Do you feel like you got your point across?
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know what else I have to do. I hope I did.
You really wanted to fight on this card. You said that right after your last win. Were you kind of hoping, I mean, I know you said you wanted to be on the main card. Were you hoping you get a bigger opportunity that, no disrespect to Polo Reyes, but not the biggest name? You're on the prelims. Like, were you happy you got on the fight card, but maybe not so happy with the, the level of competition?
Exactly. It came to a point where I couldn't get any of the top guys to fight me. A couple of I talked to Sean about a couple of them, and I couldn't get it to work out. They don't want to fight. They want us killers to fight each other, and so they don't have to fight any of us because they're coming up. And it got to a point I just took what I had to get on the card, honestly, so I could fight at home.
And so now what do you think happens? Like, did you feel like, okay, I went on the mic, I said what I had to say, now they have to give me something bigger?
I mean, yeah, and hopefully I get a better promotional push as well. I've like we talked about on your show last time, I was 6-1. Now I'm 7-1 in the UFC. I haven't been flown out to do any events. They're doing, flying all these other people out, taking them places and doing this stuff, and they have 500 records in the UFC, and it's not right. And hopefully I finally do get it. And yeah, I want a top 15 opponent, and I'm ready for bigger things. I'm 30 years old, and my goal is to be a world champion. I mean, no offense to Polo Reyes, like you said, but the levels weren't there. I'm just better than him everywhere.
Who were the guys that you mentioned there were a couple of fighters that you were planning to fight if things fell apart? Who were there?
I said I want the winner of Kevin Lee, Michael Chiesa, and I said that assuming, I feel healthy, and I do feel healthy right now. You never know, after maybe a couple days, maybe I feel something coming up, but I feel healthy, and I'm going to keep my weight down, and if one of them get injured, I'll jump in there and step in and fight one of them in a heartbeat. Next month, 5 weeks away in Oklahoma City, which is like a 3-hour drive from here, where I live.
Like you said, this is like your home state. I mean, were you expecting some sort of push for this one, or at least to be in a highlighted fight? And when some of the other fights fell apart on this card, were you thinking maybe I would get that bump up?
At first, I was, I was a little disappointed, but then I saw how big the pay-per-view was. I'm not unrealistic. I realized this is the biggest pay-per-view of the year. But then at the same time, when Cejudo and them drop out, I was hoping, not gonna lie, I was hoping I would get moved to the main card. I'm not gonna, cry over spilled milk now. I'm just, optimistic. I've been talking to a couple people, and they've been, telling me some things. So I'm optimistic that I'm gonna get a good push, and I'm gonna get, finally what I've been fighting for and deserve.
Do you have any idea why it hasn't happened yet?
Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do maybe with my inactivity. That is only my 8th fight in four years, but at the same time, the last year and a half, I've been pretty active. I have been pretty active, and I'm 7-1 in the UFC. I have 4 finishes, 3 first round. Against good competition. I haven't, once again, no disrespect to Polo Reyes, but he's probably the worst ranked opponent that I fought. Everyone I fought has been good, So, I do think it's time.
And you just said that you have a feeling that you'll get a bit of a push. Did something happen after the fight? Did you
I
talk
talked to the new PR lady and everything, and we're on good terms, and we're making stuff work.
Were you
so
scolded?
I'm hoping, no, not at all.
Okay.
No, they've been very respectful and very opening and listening. I'm actually flying out next weekend to the Fighters Conference, so I should be setting some stuff up to talk to them then, and I'm optimistic.
And how about the actual finish? It was pretty damn beautiful to see you slip that punch and use your reach like you have in the past. Anything that you weren't happy about in that fight, because it seemed like a pretty flawless performance?
No, it turned out perfect, because the main thing is I didn't take any damage. If for some reason if Kevin Lee or Chiesa doesn't get injured or anything like that, I mean, I'm not wishing injury on anyone, but if they do get injured or something, I'll gladly step in. If not, then I'll go ahead and chill for the summer and fight in the fall. My goal is to fight 4 times this year. I just had 2 fights in 3.5 months. So my goal is to fight in the fall, and then late winter again, get 4 fights and be ranked in the top 8 by then. That's my goal.
And any particular reason why those 2 are the ones that you think?
Just because, I was just obviously Chiesa beat me on the Ultimate Fighter 5 years ago. I've been wanting that rematch, and it just, and they're both ranked in the top 10 or top 15. I think Kevin Lee's ranked number 11 or something like that, and Chiesa's ranked like number 7 or 8. So yeah, the reason is they're ranked higher.
It's interesting to hear you say that you want them, and to also hear you kind of openly talk about not getting that push, because yesterday they got involved in a bit of a melee, and it's been everywhere, all over the place on Sports Center and things like that. As someone who's trying to get noticed and is having a tough time doing it, and you see 2 guys, do that and now get noticed, what do you think of that? Does that
I mean,
does that frustrate you? That all of a
yeah,
sudden-
it frustrates me because, to be honest with you, you know, like I said, I can't really talk about Chiesa because Chiesa, he beat me 5 years ago. He did beat me 5 years ago. But at the same time, they have more losses in the UFC than I do. I'm 7-1. They're like 7-2 or something, or 8-2 maybe. Their records aren't that much better than mine, and both of them only beat one ranked opponent. You know, so I mean, Kevin Lee just beat number 12 ranked guy. I believe that's his first. You know, that's his first ranked guy that he's beat, and they're acting like their career. These people just keep acting like their careers are way ahead of mine and stuff, and it's a joke. You know, my UFC record is 7-1. Theirs is like 7-2 or 8-2. Their record isn't any better than mine. They have more losses than I do.
In that 5 years' time, what's the biggest difference between the James Vick then and the James Vick now?
Progression. You know, I believe that I train harder than all these guys, and I think it's proof because realistically, I shouldn't be beating half of these guys. Like 2 fights ago when I fought Abel Trillo, he was a 3-time college All-American wrestler, and I took him down. I didn't even wrestle in high school. But you can catch people through hard work and taking your life serious. You know, I saw them, you know, recently just promoting, who was it, Yair Rodriguez, talking about how he doesn't have a life, he doesn't drink, he doesn't. Guess what? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party either. I don't have any life either. How do you think I've been able to catch these guys that have been training for 10 years longer than me? So, you know, so just hard work. That's how I'm catching them, and that's what it is.
Someone like Mark Chiesa, who's campaigning for a big fight, he's now left without a fight. He's a big, hard-hitting lightweight. It seems like a perfect matchup for you now.
I mean, no disrespect, but he's 2-0 in the UFC. That does me no good. If I was 25, I would take that. I'm 30 years old. I'm trying to get in the top 15 and become a world champion. So that fight really doesn't do anything for me. You know, I mean, he's 2-0 and I'm 7-1. You know, and if he had more fights or was ranked, then absolutely. But right now, it doesn't make sense.
Do you think it could make sense by going into Europe to beat a European guy with big prospect and you go in and show yourself? Because if you're having these performances and maybe not getting the rub you think, then go into enemy territory and beat the guy that everyone's talking about.
I did that in Australia against Jake Matthews, and it didn't do me any good. All it got me was a 33% tax break, tax cut where they took all my money, and I didn't make any money going over there. So I have no interest in fighting overseas again, unless they're paying me more money. But I appreciate the question.
How's the cut these days?
I mean, it's rough. It's never easy. You know, I'm gonna keep my weight down this after this one for sure. I'll be back in the gym probably Tuesday. I'll probably do yoga or something Monday. Be Tuesday back running. You know, I've actually started running again. I was scared to run for the longest time after I had the hip surgery. So I started running again, and the weight cuts. It's never easy, but I work with George Lockhart. He's the best in the world, fitness VT, and he flies out with me for all the fights, and he really helps me so much, and so it's never easy, but I've never missed weight.
Earlier you mentioned inactivity. It's nice to see the quick turnaround. You just fought in February. Tonight you made an amazing statement. But in the last 2 years you have been relatively inactive. What's the reason for that? Is it because the UFC hasn't been giving you those opportunities? You had injuries? What's kept you?
Actually, the last 2 years I've been pretty active. In the last year I've had 4 fights. Now, I lost the Benil fights. At least that was a number 7 ranked opponent. It's not like I lost to a dude who's ranked out of the top 20. But I've had 4 fights basically the last year. So because I fought him in June of last year, so I've had 4 fights in the last year. Now before that, it was inactive, just injuries. After I fought Jake Matthews, I was on cloud 9. Thought I'm 4-0 in the UFC. I'm about to get a promotional push. I got the bonus, and then I got screwed by taxes, and then I came back, had to have hip surgery, and didn't fight for a year and went broke again. So it's a blessing to fight 2 times in 3 months, and just the inactivities was injuries, but I'm healthy now.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Congrats.
James, I'll take you over here now.
Eric.